and what they recently did toward both Zegler and the Disney company for their Snow White film. It turns out that both Trey Parker and Matt Stone are already preparing for the DEI special.
The moment word got out that Rachel Zegler had slammed Trey Parker and Matt Stone, the masterminds behind South Park, with a jaw-dropping 9-figure defamation lawsuit, Hollywood instantly knew this wasn't your average celebrity spat. This was a headline-hungry battle tailor-made for the digital age. On one end, you've got a rising actress still reeling from the PR disaster that was Disney's chaotic Snow White reboot.
One major development going on now involves more to do with Rachel Zegler and her attitude towards South Park Studios and Paramount after learning about what they are planning for their upcoming special called the DEI Special.
The last time I had the dream, I was walking down the school hallway, and that's when I started to notice that something's wrong. Everyone I cared about has been systematically replaced. And finally, I want to scream, and I'm like, why are they replacing every single character with someone who is diverse?
No, make it more lame. That is exactly what they're doing. And that is why we hate the diversity, equity, and inclusion casting and writing in movies.
On the flip side were two fearless kings of comedy, Trey Parker and Matt Stone, who've built their empire on dragging pop culture through the mud unapologetically every time. What began as just another outrageous South Park episode quickly spiraled into a legal showdown that caught everyone off guard. This wasn't about punchlines anymore. It became a fierce clash between a rising star's public image and a show that's never shied away from mocking everything, from presidents to pop icons. The chaos ignited when South Park aired a savage parody that took aim at all the noise surrounding Rachel Zegler's controversial take on Disney's Snow White. Parker and Stone didn't hold back. The episode went full throttle, turning internet drama into animated absurdity. Their cartoon version of Rachel strutted around a fantasy kingdom, phone in hand like it was royal jewelry, tossing out hot takes on Hollywood politics and cultural flashpoints. Each scene amped up the insanity, ending with an over-the-top musical number that shredded big-budget remakes like they were past their prime. Fans online were howling with laughter, but in Los Angeles, the real Rachel Zegler wasn't amused. Her smile disappeared fast as the animated portrayal hit a nerve she hadn't expected. Early talk from insiders claimed she'd shrug it off. Rachel knows how South Park operates, they said, but that assumption didn't last long. Just days later, TMZ dropped a bombshell. Rachel had filed a $100 million defamation lawsuit over the episode. At first, people assumed it was just a scare tactic, maybe a push for an apology or some public damage control. But then came the legal blitz. Her attorneys filed swiftly, tossing out accusations with force. According to the lawsuit, the episode didn't just joke about her, it allegedly wrecked her career, painting her as a bratty, out-of-touch actress who torpedoed a major film. The lawsuit hit hard, claiming Parker and Stone went beyond edgy humor and crossed into full-on character assassination. Her team even called out one particular gag where the animated Rachel seemed to be pocketing film funds, with a sarcastic dig suggesting $40 million was blown on budget snacks. Zegler's lawyers didn't see the humor. They labeled the portrayal as not only misleading, but intentionally damaging. "Our rights are being trampled," they declared. According to the suit, job offers began vanishing shortly after the episode aired. One studio reportedly told her team they'd hold off on casting until the drama cooled down. That, for Zegler's camp, was enough proof. This wasn't just satire, it was costing her real money and real opportunities. News of the legal grenade hit just as Parker and Stone were finishing a writing session in Culver City. Staffers said every phone lit up at once, push alerts from Variety and Deadline flooding in. The creators looked at each other, part annoyed, part amused. These two had weathered plenty of storms before. Lawsuits from religious groups, takedown threats from powerful corporations, even picketers outside Comedy Central's doors. But this, one actor demanding $100 million, that was a new one. The term girl boss Snow White quickly began trending online, but not in a positive way. Every word Rachel Zegler said seemed to be under intense scrutiny. From every quote to every red carpet appearance, fans tore apart every public moment she had. Rather than excitement, audiences felt the enchantment of Snow White slipping away. But things took a turn for the worse when attention shifted to her awkward interactions with co-star Gal Gadot during press events and awards shows. Fans couldn't miss the odd body language between the two, and at the Oscars, it was nearly impossible to overlook. When they presented together on stage, fans couldn't help but notice the lack of chemistry and the minimal interaction between them. Rumors started circulating that Gal Gadot had purposely distanced herself from the growing controversy, and whispers suggested that behind the scenes, things weren't exactly friendly. Meanwhile, Disney stayed eerily silent, offering no significant changes, no shift in messaging, just sticking to business as usual. But the reality was, the movie itself wasn't resonating with audiences. Despite Disney's massive marketing push, Snow White hit theaters with a thud. Ticket sales were underwhelming, and even the power of its name couldn't save it. The film quickly turned into one of the studio's most controversial remakes. That flop is now cemented in pop culture, thanks to a savage parody on The Simpsons. The classic Springfield wit cut right to the heart of it. Over on cable news, legal experts filled up panel slots debating one big, messy question. Can a cartoon actually be considered defamation? Inside South Park headquarters, Parker and Stone were deep in strategy sessions, practically a war room vibe that lasted long into the night. Their gut instinct? Spin the drama into a new episode, like they've done countless times before. They've always been quick to lampoon themselves, transforming controversies into story arcs. But this time, the lawyers stepped in hard. Any new joke could backfire. Worse, it could be seen as retaliation and risk even more legal fallout. So, in an unexpected move from the duo who've mocked just about everything and everyone, they went silent, at least publicly. Still, behind the scenes, the creative gears never stopped turning. Sketches were already flying. One pitch imagined a puppet courtroom drama where animated versions of Trey and Matt took the stand. Another idea? A sad, over-the-top musical called Sue Me Gently. They even joked about courtroom sketches that looked like they were drawn by kindergartners. But for now, everything stayed locked away, waiting for the green light. Meanwhile, updates started leaking about Rachel's state of mind. Those close to her said she was bouncing between laser focus and total exhaustion. This wasn't just about money. Rachel felt like she had to make a statement. I'm not some easy punchline. In her eyes, if she didn't take a stand, she'd be forever known as the girl in the cartoon dress holding a phone, meme material for years to come. Critics accused her of being overly dramatic. Come on, they said. Even Tom Cruise, Kanye West, and the Queen have been roasted harder. But her supporters clapped back. Those are established icons with huge, loyal fan bases. Rachel's still climbing the ladder. One viral moment like this could define her in ways that others with decades of fame would easily brush off. As the lawsuit worked its way through the Los Angeles courts, Parker and Stone finally broke their silence. No dramatic press conference, just a short, simple statement. We believe strongly in the right to parody public figures and public events. We look forward to a vigorous defense of that right. Boom, clean and calm. No digs, no drama. But insiders say the moment their legal team gives them the green light, they're more than ready to flip this entire saga into another comedy goldmine. For now, though, the spotlight remains on one crucial legal question. Where is the line between biting satire and actual defamation? Courts have traditionally protected jokes that a reasonable person wouldn't take seriously. But in this case, that line's never been blurrier.
Snow White is the first American feature-length animated movie. 1937. It's one of the most beloved movies of all time.
In the controversial South Park episode, an animated version of Rachel Zegler belted out a wild song, joking that she rewrote iconic movie scenes just to cash in bigger paychecks. While many viewers laughed it off as clear satire, Rachel's legal team didn't find it funny. They argued that not everyone watching had the media literacy to understand it was a parody. To back their claim, they brought receipts, actual social media posts from users who genuinely believed Rachel hijacked the production. Her attorneys pointed to those reactions as evidence that the sketch didn't just poke fun, it distorted reality. But Parker and Stone weren't backing down. Their defense came in hot, presenting a flood of online memes and comments mocking how outrageously exaggerated the episode was. Their core argument: anyone with common sense could see it was all a joke. Ridiculous on purpose, made purely to entertain, not mislead. Just as the drama was heating up, a new player quietly entered the picture: Disney. Rumors swirled that the Mouse House was watching the situation closely, reportedly worried about what the courtroom might unearth. Though Disney wasn't officially named in the lawsuit, insiders claimed execs were nervous that testimony might dig into sensitive topics, like budget blowouts and behind-the-scenes decisions on Snow White. If subpoenas started flying, potentially demanding production emails or internal notes referencing the South Park parody, Disney's legal team was said to be ready to shut that down immediately. Meanwhile, the court set a trial date for early next year, giving both camps time to build their cases. But the timing raised eyebrows. If Rachel landed any major roles, the lawsuit could resurface just in time for red carpet season. And as for South Park, the next season would be in development. Perfect timing for a potential satirical response once legal restrictions eased. Behind the scenes, entertainment lawyers whispered that both sides might be inching toward a quiet settlement, but Parker and Stone reportedly refused to budge. Giving in, they warned, would set a dangerous precedent, one that could kill future jokes before they're even written. Trey Parker reportedly told a colleague, "If we pay up now, the next joke dies before we even write it." That sentiment lit a fire under free speech advocates. The ACLU stepped in with an amicus brief supporting the creators, arguing that satire plays a crucial role in holding powerful figures accountable. Their warning? Celebrities and studios carefully control public images, and if comedians aren't allowed to challenge that narrative, the public may never question what's real. Rachel's team, however, took a more measured approach. Rather than attacking satire outright, they focused on reframing the case. This, they insisted, wasn't about silencing comedy. It was about drawing a line when the laughs become personal and destructive. A young actress thrust into the spotlight, mocked for months, then animated for millions to see. Rachel had had enough. She appeared on a late-night talk show known for its softer tone, where she spoke candidly. Holding back tears but staying composed, she said she respected satire, just not when it crossed into reckless misrepresentation that could destroy someone's career. Her emotional honesty sparked another round of headlines. Some praised her courage, while others accused her of being too thin-skinned. Online, the debate exploded. Hashtags like Team Rachel and Team South Park took over timelines. Memes, mashups, and hot takes flew in all directions. Social media turned into a digital war zone. No middle ground, no nuance. Calm discussions were drowned out by trolls and outrage culture. Some fans even posted side-by-side comparisons of other South Park targets. Politicians, musicians, royals, arguing that Rachel got off light. Others clapped back with lengthy threads on how damaging portrayals like this can be, resulting in lost endorsements, missed roles, and long-term emotional tolls. By the time the court scheduled the first pretrial hearing, the chaos had boiled over. The public wasn't talking about facts anymore. It was all about feelings, sides, and spectacle. At the courthouse, the media showed up in full force. Reporters packed every seat ready for fireworks. Parker and Stone arrived in understated suits, but couldn't resist some cheeky flair. Matt wore a tie covered in cartoon paper cutouts. Trey sported cufflinks shaped like tiny TVs. Rachel entered separately, flanked by her legal team and dressed in a sharp navy blazer that screamed professionalism. Cameras caught a brief glance she exchanged with the creators, one that was impossible to read. Was it defiance, nerves, or maybe hope for resolution? Her lawyers zeroed in on a particular moment from the episode, an animation of a studio flinging cash at her while she shouted, "Modernization isn't cheap, peasants!" They argued it painted her as a greedy diva demanding absurd perks, and that people believed it. The defense didn't hold back. "This is South Park," they said. "It's a show with talking towels and time-traveling tricycles. Who's seriously mistaking it for real life?" They brought out the First Amendment big guns, arguing that parody needs space to push boundaries, sometimes to absurd levels, so audiences can reflect on real-life drama through humor. The judge didn't throw out the case. Instead, they ruled it would be up to a jury to decide whether a typical viewer could tell parody from fact. It was a middle ground decision that satisfied no one, and all but guaranteed the case would go to trial. Outside, the circus continued. Paparazzi swarmed both parties. Parker and Stone offered no new comments beyond saying they were confident in their defense. Rachel stood firm too, saying all she wanted was fairness and accountability, not a war on comedy.
Even if everything worked perfectly, it would have been almost impossible for this movie to succeed, because you're comparing it to one of the most beloved films of all time and a truly groundbreaking movie.
Then came the chatter, whispers swirling that Trey Parker and Matt Stone might be sitting on internal Disney emails. Allegedly, these messages revealed studio insiders admitting the South Park episode was brutal, but not exactly inaccurate. If those emails were real and somehow surfaced in court, Rachel's case could suffer a major blow. And for Disney, it would be a PR nightmare. Imagine their own team basically validating a parody that mocked them. Even if the emails didn't exist, the rumors alone sent the internet into a frenzy. Podcasts, talk shows, Reddit threads, you name it, everyone was speculating. While the courtroom noise briefly quieted down, Parker and Stone went full throttle into crafting the next South Park season. Inside the writer's room, the energy was electric. They tossed around everything from cartoon characters suing for unpaid royalties, to a town that banned jokes over 6 seconds, to an episode turning lawyers into collectible trading cards. The trick? Keeping the satire sharp without crossing legal lines. Eventually, they landed on a script so on the nose, the censors flagged it immediately. After a rushed round of tweaks, the episode finally aired. An oddball metaphor about enchanted puppets and a courtroom ruled by hyper-literal robots. No direct names were used, but fans instantly caught the drift. The references were thinly veiled, and it didn't take long for the internet to explode again. Think pieces flooded in, questioning whether South Park had violated a gag order or simply danced around it with expert precision. Meanwhile, Rachel was keeping her head down, pouring herself into a gritty independent film, far removed from the blockbuster noise and corporate drama. Her team said she felt grounded on set, away from the relentless spotlight. She didn't mention the lawsuit, choosing instead to focus entirely on the project. But once press junkets began and trailers dropped, it was inevitable. Reporters circled right back to the South Park controversy. Rachel handled it gracefully, answering with poise before steering the conversation back to her work. She was determined to shift the narrative, away from legal headlines and back to her craft. But Hollywood, it was bracing for a spectacle. As the trial date loomed, security geared up for crowds of protesters and superfans outside the courthouse. Streaming platforms competed for rights to cover the trial, anticipating massive viewership. Analysts warned that the outcome could rewrite the rules on satire in the social media era. If Rachel won, it could set a precedent. More public figures might sue over parodies that feel too personal. But if South Park walked away victorious, satirists everywhere might feel untouchable, pushing boundaries further with legal backing. Once in court, the opening statements went straight for the jugular. Rachel's legal team painted a powerful picture, a rising star dragged through the mud on a global stage. They argued the cartoon wasn't satire, it was a smear campaign, so exaggerated it stopped being funny and started damaging her career. The defense hit back just as hard, invoking America's deep tradition of satirizing public figures, from harsh editorial cartoons to savage late-night monologues. Parker and Stone, they argued, were simply exaggerating the absurdity of pop culture. One attorney even asked the courtroom, "Do we really want a world where cartoons need a no parody intended warning?" The room was captivated. The witness list was stacked. Media analysts, psychologists specializing in celebrity branding, even an economist who broke down how much Rachel may have lost due to the controversy. And yes, Parker and Stone took the stand. They peeled back the curtain on their creative process, explaining how they thrive on turning real news into ridiculous extremes, trusting their audience to know the difference. It might have sounded like a joke at first, but under cross-examination, Parker and Stone didn't exactly deny it. In fact, they admitted that sometimes, they play into controversy. They even acknowledged it could give ratings a healthy boost. That moment, it raised the stakes instantly. Then came Rachel's turn on the stand, and she didn't hold back. Her tone was steady, but every word hit hard. She recalled waking up to a flood of notifications, clips of the South Park episode flooding her feed, paired with cruel captions questioning her talent and professionalism. She spoke candidly about the anxiety that spiraled afterward, the auditions that disappeared, and the looming fear of being labeled difficult before her career even had the chance to find its footing. As deliberations began, the air in the courtroom changed. The tension was thick. Jurors clearly empathized with Rachel, but they also had to weigh the legal protections afforded to satire. After 3 intense days, the verdict landed: not guilty. Parker and Stone were cleared of all responsibility. The jury foreperson explained it clearly. They sympathized with Rachel, but the episode was so exaggerated, so over the top, that it couldn't be taken literally. To them, it was unmistakably parody. Over at Comedy Central, you could almost hear the collective sigh of relief. Executives finally exhaled. The reaction? Explosive. Late-night monologues, panel debates, trending hashtags. Everyone had something to say. Outside the courthouse, Rachel addressed the press with poise. She thanked those who stood by her and promised to continue advocating for more respectful storytelling. She looked heartbroken, yes, but unshaken. She made it clear her fight wasn't just personal. It was for every performer trying to protect their image in an industry where jokes sometimes cut too deep. As for Parker and Stone, flanked by their legal team, they offered just one line: "We're going back to work." No trash talk, no flexing. They seemed to understand that even a win like this didn't come without complications. This case had sparked real, necessary conversations. Where does comedy end and cruelty begin? Weeks passed, and both sides pushed forward. Rachel's indie film made its debut, and critics took notice. Reviews praised her emotional range and authenticity. Fans showed up, proving they hadn't turned their backs. South Park returned with a bang. The new episode opened with a cheeky dedication. To anyone who's ever thought about suing us, thanks for watching. Ratings went through the roof. But this time, the jokes felt a bit different. The edge was still there, but there was a flicker of self-awareness, as if even Parker and Stone realized that satire, no matter how fearless, doesn't exist in a vacuum. The trial didn't just make headlines, it became a cultural flashpoint. Law schools used it as a case study. Media ethics panels dissected every detail. Legal scholars celebrated the verdict as a victory for free speech, while PR insiders pointed out the reputational bruises both sides had to wear. For Rachel, the experience marked a turning point. It drew a boundary and earned her quiet respect from peers who saw her as someone bold enough to stand up to the system. For Parker and Stone, their no-holds-barred style remained intact. But maybe now with a sharper awareness of who's listening when the laughter fades. This courtroom battle proved one thing beyond the verdict. South Park still holds serious cultural weight. But in today's hyper-connected world, that power comes with consequences. They can't just laugh off anymore. This wasn't just a trending headline, it was a defining moment. One animated episode snowballed into a multi-million-dollar legal fight that forced the industry to take a hard look at the line between satire and personal attack, between free speech and someone's name. Both parties walked away with scars, and with growth. Rachel emerged stronger, seen as an artist who stood tall when the spotlight turned savage. She earned her credibility the hard way. South Park didn't just survive, they walked away reminded that even the sharpest punchline can leave a mark. The show goes on, but the impact lingers. Time will pass. One day, this story might just be a case study in a media law class, or part of a Netflix doc called The Princess versus the Paper Cutout. But for the people who lived it was raw, it was real, and it left a mark. This whole saga proves something powerful. Creativity and criticism aren't enemies. They're dance partners, constantly pushing and pulling, shaping the culture as they go. If you vibed with this deep dive, don't forget to like, subscribe, share it with your crew, and drop your thoughts below. Was this free speech, or did they take it too far? Let us know. Catch you in the next one, because trust us, it's only getting wilder from here.